We'll just start with say and spell your name.
My name is Becca Begnaud, B-E-C-C-A-B-E-G-N-A-U-D.
Awesome. Where are you from, Becca?
Scott.
Scott. What was it like to grow up in Scott?
It was really kind of idyllic.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like Mayberry or FD with a French accent, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, I can.
And my aunt, she was like the secretary of the town, well, except it was a village. And she had an office. And on the right side of her office, in the same building, was where we kept the fire truck. And in the back of the office, the same building, was two like cells that had like big long windows. So she was sort of like an Aunt Bee. But I don't think she cooked for the people, but we did. It was very much Mayberry.
Very much. It's good to hear because Scott's a great little community.
It was.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I'm not familiar, and I get shamed for this every time I ask, but is it really the beginning of the West or where the?
Okay.
Tell me that.
Real deal.
Yeah.
That's a real deal. It's known as where the West begins.
That. Yeah.
Okay. That had to do with the fare for the train changed at Scott.
Oh.
One way was going to the east, one way was traveling west, and the fares changed. I don't know if it was more expensive to go west or to come east, but that was
I did not know that.
why. And it was on the front of, I think, Mr. Adolphe Domingue's store,
Yeah.
where the West begins.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that.
that's why.
Very cool. So, in Scott, what was life like besides Mayberry? I mean, what were you involved with or in or?
Well, it's hard to explain if you never lived in a small town.
Okay.
You know, because it almost sounds like we make this stuff up. Okay. And then in a small town in southwest Louisiana, you related to everybody, at least, if not twice. No, but this is true, right? Okay. So, all your friends at school are also your cousins. Like, what do you do with that? So you go sleep with your cousin, but then you don't go because they're related to you. You go visit because they're your friends.
Sure.
So there's that. So my house, and I was able to buy the house I grew up in.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So my backyard touches the school. It was Scott High until they made it Acadiana. The front of my house faces the side of the church, Saints Peter and Paul. To the left and across the street is the funeral home. You ready? You see, it's all right there. And then to the right is the cemetery. So what else do you need? And then on the other side of the church is a little store. So you could just go around the church and go to the store. And then my friend lived before the store. And so she and I would visit, and I'd walk her to her house, and she'd walk me to my house, and we'd spend hours in front of church visiting. And then when I got old enough to ride my bicycle, I could cross the highway. Oh my gosh. And then I went to visit my other cousins, and we'd go ride the bicycle all over town.
Sounds wonderful.
Because all over town was not too far.
Right.
You know. And then I had an uncle, his name was Uncle Toby. He had a meat market. Well, it's kind of like, I don't know how to tell you that everything was fun.
Yeah.
But trust me, it was fun.
Yeah.
So we'd go see Uncle Toby. Now, a meat market in those days only sold meat. And it was cold. It had to be cold, you know. He sold meat. And when we'd go to visit, he'd open a drawer. There was a drawer at the bottom of the cooler. And in the drawer, he kept some cold weenies. All right. And he'd give us a cold weenie. I mean, like that was like better than ice cream. I don't know why we would get excited to eat cold raw weenies.
Right.
But, oh, we were just like,
simple times.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it was like that. I don't know how to, and everybody knew everybody. You knew where they sat in church. You knew which mass they went to. And when you went to mass with your cousin, then you sat where they sat in church. And it was not where you sat or where your grandparents sat. And everything was like an adventure. Like, ooh, it was fun. It really was.
Very cool. So after you said you went to Acadiana.
The first year that it was a school in 1970. Yeah.
But that was a big deal, you know.
It was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, You know how we like to kid around? Lots of people here like to kid around. So I could tell my children, I had to walk to school all my life, right? Oh, but I couldn't say that as a senior because I had to ride the bus.
Right.
Because all my life I just walked to the backyard.
Turned around.
And so that was a big change. And you sort of, when you go to school for 11 years with your friends who are mostly your cousins, and then all of a sudden you're going to go to school with another school, that's kind of a rival, but rivalry is kind of, and then part of Lafayette High, which usually isn't any of those people. So like we had a year to choose colors and choose a mascot and choose a motto and then go to college. It was big, I don't know, a challenge and disruptive maybe. It was just big.
It's big, I could imagine. Yeah, it's not your normal freshman experience.
No.
Right.
When I was in junior high, I was in the band, and our band director told us that we were going to probably graduate from the new high school. We didn't want to hear that. You know, I say we, and some of my friends and my cousins, we just like cried, like, are you kidding me? Like you're going to take me out of Mayberry or tea with the French accent and make us go to, it was huge, and they didn't have a name yet.
Right.
So we called it Central High until it became Acadiana.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was big things for us, for everybody.
Yeah. So where did life take you after Acadiana High?
Well, I went to UL for a year and a half or so, and then I got married and I moved to Baton Rouge. I was only married once, and I'm not married now, but we stayed married for like 12 and a half years, and he had a degree from UL. So after a year or so after he graduated, he was still in school when we got married, we moved to Baton Rouge, and I'd cook supper on Friday nights for all our friends. So we had this little Cajun thing going. So we had some Begnaud and Derwents and Bourgeois and Cormiers and us. It was, you know, we would watch Kung Fu and eat seafood. You know what I say?
Never put those together.
Well, you know, it's Friday nights.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So how long did you live in Baton Rouge for?
12 years.
Okay.
12, yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you end up back here?
I got a divorce. You know, that changes your life. And, you know, in the 12 years of living in Baton Rouge, I was married. And then I had 3 children.
Right.
So I wasn't so much into what culture there was or not. When you're married and you have 3 children, that's kind of what you focus on. But I do remember that I always spoke French. We went to a Codafield meeting once in Baton Rouge, and nobody spoke French. And I'm like, I mean, I couldn't say anything, and I didn't want to say anything, but I was trying to hold back laughter. I'm like, how can y'all talk about developing French? None of y'all even speak French. What is this? But it was just the effort at the beginning of the French movement then, you know.
Right.
So there were things, and we always liked music, so we went to hear music a lot.
Yeah. It's so funny, too, as you're speaking about speaking French, I feel like you're about to slip into French, and I'm just along for the ride.
I won't say anything obscene, no bad words, and no foreign languages. I will keep it in English and clean as I can.
If you do happen to curse, just let us know so we can bleep it out, because I won't know if you're cursing.
You know the term, excuse my French? What does that mean? That means, excuse me, I'm going to say some nasty things, and don't you correct me. So, but I won't say that.
Fair enough. Awesome. So tell me how you first got involved with AOC.
Lord. I worked with Linda Boudreau with the Extra Mile. Jeez. No, I think it was... I don't really remember. I know things happened, but I don't remember which happened
Fair
first.
Enough, yeah.
Like I'm going down the street. I know your house or the business is somewhere on this street, but I don't know if it's in this direction or that direction.
Yeah.
So I was part of a support group for people who had mental illness. And if you're in Al-Anon and you have a support group, you can take turns leading the group. But if you're bipolar, you can't necessarily take a turn.
Sure.
Because if you're too high or you're too low,
Right.
you're not functioning.
Right.
So we created this support group. And I believe that was before I worked with Linda.
Okay.
So what I chose to do in order to facilitate a support group when maybe none of us could actually facilitate,
Sure.
I did a 10-part series at Acadiana Open Channel. But that was before Ed was here. Like it was like very long ago. And I chose 10 topics that were sort of universal to what you would experience at different phases of being in the hospital, out of the hospital. And it was geared towards people who had bipolar affective disorder. And that way, people could put that in and learn something and then have a discussion about it. And nobody had to be in charge.
Sure.
So that was my first.
Yeah.
I don't even know where those things exist or if you could look for that, but the cameraman was John Tompkins, and John was a cancer survivor friend of mine, and he had had throat cancer, or what do you call that? Yes, he had a tracheotomy, and so he was just wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think he's the first person that understood I was an artist. Because like I didn't understand I was an artist, and I'm just doing this because I know how to help these people. And I'm kind of like diagnosed, so that doesn't necessarily give you an artistic credential. You actually have an illness. What is artistic about being bipolar? You know what I'm saying? But he would call and he would say, "Are you ready?" And like he knew, he understood the creative process. I didn't. I was just like, okay, yeah, I think. And we'd pick a different place, and we did 10-part series. And it was the first time anyone that I can remember treated me like I had something creative going on. It's not like, okay, I want to do this, poof. There's, you know what I'm talking about?
Definitely.
The energetic thing. Well, I just thought I was, I don't know. I just thought I was diagnosed. I shall not say anything self-deprecating.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
So I did that. And then when I worked with Linda Boudreau, she had the extra mile. I don't know if she still has her show.
She retired, I want to say like 2 years ago, finished her show.
I was the first group of Vista volunteers who worked with Linda.
Okay.
The extra mile was created to work with people who had mental illness, who had substance abuse problems in any form, and who had developmental disabilities. So I was able to do a lot of advocacy work. I think what's really important, if you want to help somebody and you have what they have, like whatever you share, is to be okay with what you have. So I was totally okay to have a diagnosis. Like, you know, I have short hair.
Right.
I'm okay if you have short hair.
Right.
You know, because you can't help someone if you're always offended by what you have in common with them. If that makes any kind of sense. Like, I didn't care. And in the years after that, I realized only in retrospect.
Sure.
You know, we're kind of like the crawfish. You figure everything out backwards. You do it, then, oh, look what I knew, but I didn't. You know what I'm saying?
That's very human. That's every day.
It's so human.
Yeah.
So it's like I had done all I had done the AOC stuff, and I worked with Linda, and then later, when I started doing other things, nothing anybody said could ever really bother me. Because like, well, yeah, you know, I have a diagnosis of mental illness, so what? It really was helpful.
Sure.
But I didn't know that in the beginning.
Right, right. Good.
Yeah.
That's a unique perspective to hear from a community producer. It's very unique that
Oh,
it
yeah.
helped you to, yeah.
So then I could go and address a group who we did some work in schools, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not here wanting to help those poor people with mental illness.
Right.
I am one of those people with mental illness, okay?
Right.
So you can either be afraid of me or not,
Right.
but I don't really care.
Right.
And so then when you remove the ability to be hurt, then you can stand in your own strength and how you dealt with it.
Yeah.
So it became really big because later on I started doing healing work. So, you know what people do when you tell them you do healing work?
Really?
They think,
Yeah.
ooh. And so because
Is it from a lack of understanding?
I have no idea what it's from. It really doesn't matter. But it never bothered me.
Right.
Because after I had the privilege of doing advocacy work
Sure.
to overcome an illness I myself had, you don't think I cared if they said I was
Right.
crazy? Well, yeah, so now what?
Right.
You want this energy work or you don't? You want me to pray over you or you don't? It didn't matter.
Sure.
And that's, you can't give that, but later when I worked with people who had cancer, because I'm also a cancer survivor, and I would go and they would say, you used to be bald? I'm like, yeah. It grew back.
Right.
You don't have to do too much, you know, it just kind of, and so the whole, it gives you an instant rapport with people who have what you had.
Sure.
It doesn't mean you're going to get over it. It doesn't mean you can do what I did and that would be good for you, because it might not be good for you. But there's some like, well, if you can, I can, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
And so the whole ability to not be, if I wasn't bothered with the diagnosis, I sure couldn't be bothered when they laughed and I had no hair, huh?
Right.
You know, bald is,
Bald is beautiful.
it was at the time.
So going back to AOC just for a second.
Okay.
What was your first impression of AOC?
Well, I liked it. You know, I mean, it was great because it was here and it was accessible to me, where I could talk to the community and not know how to do anything, right? Because I didn't know how to do anything. John Tompkins produced
Sure.
the show, so he knew how to run a camera and he knew about
You hit the jackpot.
exactly, because I didn't know, but teaming up with him gave me the ability to help, and John was also a cancer survivor, and he understood what I was doing, and so it was wonderful. It's not something I could have done without AOC.
Yeah.
Really.
So what surprised you most about AOC?
That most people don't know that it's here. You know, my relationship long-term with AOC is at Festival International. Like, oh my God, how fun is that? And like, it's fun. And I've been volunteering there since 89 or 90. And so you get to meet the crew and meet the people and understand it. And I don't have a TV. So I think TV's cool. But there's something real about having public access to something that you know is helpful or entertaining or is for the community. That's a powerful thing. And so even though I haven't become I'm a producer now, but even though I didn't make shows and get involved, it was great. And a long time ago, Dr. Audemont did the French show, Académie Française, and he used to invite me a lot, and that was a good way to bring, you know, local culture and local flavor to the people, and that was, it's a valuable tool for us to get to know each other.
It's a great way to put it. It is reciprocal.
Yeah.
That is definitely what we want to express to the community, is that we can't be here without you. And we hope to some extent we want you to, for some purpose, like you said, you can't do it without us. So we
No.
just want that back and forth. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So tell me, what is your dream project to work on or to produce?
Well, I don't know if it's a dream, but I'm currently doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I never dreamed about it because I didn't think I could do that, you know, because I don't have technical expertise.
Sure.
But can I name names?
Absolutely. Well, if they'll let you.
Matt Roberts.
Oh, yeah, we name him. Yeah.
So Matt was here when I worked in the olden days.
Okay.
Okay. And I ran into
Olden
Matt,
days.
and he goes, "Why don't you come back to AOC?" And I'm like, well, you know, I don't know how to do anything because I never got technical over the years.
Right, right.
You know, and he goes, "Well, you could do a podcast."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said, "Well, what's involved?" He said, "Well, I can teach you. If you do anything often enough, you're bound to learn." And
That's so Matt.
I've learned, and then today he showed me a new way, a new step,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's about repetition, like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I'm not into all the technical doesn't mean I can't learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so Matt has been why I came back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I totally trust him because like I can't do it even if I didn't, right?
You can trust him.
But I can trust him. So I come in and I just do the podcast,
Yeah.
and then he decides when I don't care how often it's done, it's done, you understand?
I do.
And they're like sort of in perpetuity, I guess. You can always look it up.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to create an audience, or I'm just, when I find someone and they have something to share about healing, then we just talk about it.
Yeah.
Like you and I are talking
Yeah.
here. That's really powerful.
That is. Yeah.
And then if later on somebody wants to know, sometimes I say stuff I didn't even know I knew till I said it. Like you're having a conversation. Oh. Kind of like Steve Urkel. Did I say that? You know, did I even know that?
Right.
And
Where'd that come from?
exactly like, oh, well, it's kind of nice. So I love it. I'm really glad for the opportunity to do that. And then I don't have to worry about a million people see it because I don't know. Like, I'm sure a lot of people hear it. They don't see a podcast. But it's like, that's not my business. My business is just to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt is helping me repetitively. And if Matt happens to not be here, somebody at the desk or somebody else knows, what button do I push? I get close, you know.
Sure.
So it's the whole team here is a supportive team.
Good to hear. Oh, let's see. What are you reading right now?
What am I reading? Can I look in my purse? I don't know. I have a book that someone gave me, and it's called Our Lady of the Lost and Found.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a novel about, like, the Blessed Virgin Mary today
Mm-hmm.
in a way that it's funny, but like it's not sacrilegious.
Sure.
Unless you're offended, then it could be sacrilegious. But someone gave it to me recently, and sometimes we tend to read things to learn, you know, and like this is just kind of funny.
Yeah.
But whenever you tell a story, there's always a bigger truth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm reading now.
Yeah.
Our Lady of the Lost and Found.
Very cool.
You know,
Yeah.
she wears white shoes and she just looks like a woman,
Yeah.
like a lady.
Like a lady. Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't know, I didn't get very far into the book.
So, let's see. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't know.
Yeah. Some people, you know, randomly wanted to be something different every week. That's why I always ask.
I don't know. I'm still sort of waiting to grow up.
I agree.
So-
I'm with you on that one.
I didn't have any role models of,
Okay.
I had lots of role models,
Sure.
but not professional success.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that. That wasn't important,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
If you were a girl, you were going to be a nurse or a teacher. What else was there? And the nurses and the teachers were your family members or community members. So there were no, like, for me,
Sure.
you know, I had some cousins that were nurses and I had some friends that were teachers, but I think I did want a family.
Yeah.
That wasn't necessarily a goal either.
Yeah.
I don't guess I did.
Yeah. Nothing wrong.
When I grow up, I'll tell you what I have become.
I like it. Call me back.
I have my people call you people.
Yeah. I wish I could afford people.
Me too. Sounds good though.
If you could have dinner with 5 famous people from history, who would they be?
Well, I would want, like, let's say a saint.
Okay.
Let's say Saint Therese.
Now, which one is that? I'm not familiar.
Therese of Lisieux.
Okay.
Her name was Marie Therese Martin.
Okay.
My grandma used to say we were related.
Okay.
So,
All right.
my mama's name was Marie Therese.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 granddaughters. They both have Therese as a middle name. And her motto was little things with love, which kind of like makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not the boss, and even if you are the boss,
Yeah.
doing little things with love. So I would want to meet with her. She was in her 20s when she died, but
Oh, wow.
she was really effective in her life. And so I would want to meet with her. I would want to meet with like my grandma or my great-grandma who came here from France. Like, well, what was that like?
Yeah.
She came with her husband and 3 children. Wow. You know, you moved to Baton Rouge and back here.
Right.
But would you want to go to another country?
Can you imagine?
When you had to be on a boat and go through Ellis Island, what was that? That was big. And then I would want to meet the counterpart of that. I guess those grandmas I'd like to meet.
Right. The whole.
My great-grandparents. Because my grandpa's, it just gets too complicated for me to tell you, but
Yeah, fair enough.
Let me just say it because then I can't get it straight any other way.
Fair enough.
My grandpa's parents came from France.
Sure.
On my mother's side.
Okay.
And so that was the Pellissier family. And the Begnauds also at some point came from France.
Okay.
But my great-grandpa Begnaud married a Mouton. So she was Cajun.
Sure.
And then the Pellissier married a Morton, and she was Cajun.
Wow.
So I don't think half of me is better than the other half.
Right.
Please, but so I would like to know the people that transitioned from another country to this
Yes.
country.
Yeah.
And what were their dreams?
Wow.
Because it wasn't all easy, that moving business.
No, I would imagine none of it was easy.
No.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'd like to meet with them.
That's a
I don't know, that's enough.
great
That's
lunch,
a table.
dinner.
My great-grandparents in St. Therese, that's enough.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, definitely. What are you most excited or passionate about?
Now?
Sure. Today, tomorrow.
Today, being with you, this is exciting.
Well, I'll give you that, but come on. What else?
No, I think, well, I'm excited about things I haven't done yet that I want to do. I do have some goals. I do some music because when I was in the band, I played drums as a child, so like I still do some percussion. And in 1995, I did a CD, and it's called Le Cadeau. You get it?
I get it now.
Okay. So then I did that because I thought I had to do that, right? Like I had
There's
no
no
idea.
other option.
Exactly. Like, so we recorded a whole CD. And then last year in December, not to rush anything, I had a CD release party.
Oh, okay.
It was over 20 years.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then I realized that long ago that the CD was about healing. It wasn't really about music. It was a musical way to talk about healing. Because my Gros Pop Pellissier had been a traiteur, a healer.
Okay.
And after I had cancer, I started doing that work. So I was like, well, so I did it. But then what do you do with that?
Sure.
Well, from the year 95 until today, we're in 2017, all of a sudden there's interest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was no interest in that when I was growing up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it was just a part of our culture.
Right.
But now there's a real interest in healing
Mm-hmm.
and how that combines with medicine. A lot of things. It's bizarre. So I understand that I had to do that then and kind of like not think about it,
Mm-hmm.
and then think, whoa, maybe people are ready for it now, and they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked some musicians, and I won't name names in case they can't all come, but everybody I asked said yes, because I'm going to do another CD.
Mm-hmm.
And the CD now is, what is healing to you today?
Mm-hmm.
You give me a song that you think
Mm-hmm.
is healing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You've crowdsourced.
So the first CD, it was about Catholicism, and it was about girl pop, and it was about growing up in Scotland, whatever.
Sure.
It was just cultural
Mm-hmm.
roots, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going to ask you if you go to church or not, but maybe you don't even go to church, and maybe you're not even Catholic.
I'm
And
married a Catholic.
maybe you eat meat on Friday, and maybe you sin in other ways. I don't know. But the reality is those roots are still in all of us.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever you deem to be healing, I want to hear about it, because those roots are in you. It doesn't matter how you vote,
Yeah.
and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you still go to church,
Sure.
or nothing matters. So the first CD that I did in 95 will be something, and then this one is going to be current music,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's going to serve as a soundtrack, because I want to do a documentary about healing.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
that's my dream.
Definitely. Very cool.
I hope I live
You-
long enough to see it come true.
So what is the significance of the title Le Cadeau? Because I know it's also the title of your podcast.
Well, okay. Being a healer here, known as traiteur, it's a gift of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, and le cadeau means the gift.
The gift. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was also, as a people, it's not just a gift of healing that we had, because every culture
Mm-hmm.
has a gift of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if your culture isn't Catholic, then we can't believe that what you do is good, because if it's not like us, that's just superstitious.
Okay.
And often people who are not like us think the same way. But today, when we have this global community, we can see that every group of people had within their cultures
Sure.
healers.
So for you, is it a religious or for lack of a better word, a God-based healing, or what is your healing type? I guess, if you will. I'm trying to.
It's hard to talk about.
Well, I'm
It's
just
hard
trying to
ask,
understand.
no, but I
Yeah.
understand.
So, and we don't have to talk about that. I'm just
No,
curious.
we can, because it's important that I start to be able to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
I might not be clear tomorrow,
Ditto.
but I can give you the clarity I have today.
Fair enough.
Okay, so as a cancer survivor,
Right.
I started doing healing because a nurse at the hospital told me I should look into Reiki.
Well, now, what is Reiki?
Reiki is a healing method from the Buddhist tradition, and it's handed down with Sanskrit symbols. It's not Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing this, but I never let myself pray like the Catholic that I was, right?
Sure.
Because I'm not Catholic, and this is Catholic.
Fair enough.
So I would pray for people, but I would heal like this, okay? Then, I wasn't always a good student. So, when you first go to learn this, you receive an attunement, and you just become attuned, whatever that means. And the second time, you go for your second attunement, they give you symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And so my teacher, she's called a master, told me to take these symbols and put them in a place where they would be safe, because it was like sacred and secret. And I listened. And to this day, I have no idea where I put them. I know you can see that coming in your eye.
I did.
So I'm like, okay. So listen, okay, so I have just, this is all I have going for me, because I can't even pray for that. So I'm doing this, which is like Reiki, and I'm like, and whatever symbols need to be here, let them be here.
Okay.
Isn't that?
Okay.
Okay. So then, when I received my next level from another teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think she was like, thought it was cute or too cool that I had continued to do this work with lost symbols. But, you know, I couldn't lie. So she told me that I should learn something called healing touch.
Mm-hmm.
So I did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, healing touch is a way of working with energy that nurses have created, because they saw lots of nurses following the same protocol, but some people that certain nurses worked with had a better rate of improvement. Or so then they did this around healership. And so for them, healership came from source.
Right.
Because, you know, now this is professional. So we're not talking about God, and we're not talking about Catholic, we're not talking about universal life force, we're talking about source, like creator. It has to be at this level so that Catholic people and Jewish people and Native American people and African people and, you know.
Right. So everyone pulls from whoever their
Yeah,
source is.
so we're going to call source because we don't call it God. So then that becomes.
So that's your.
Then I get to like train with nurses, and I'm thinking, well, maybe that'll make me credible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the nurses kind of want to be with some healer, because that makes them credible in that way.
Sure.
So I did that for a while. And then I trained in something called awakening. And right now I can't tell you about it because I just can't remember the deal, but it was fun, and I did it here, the local person. And then I did some training after Katrina in a method called trauma first aid, which doesn't sound good, but you treat people who have experienced trauma.
Sure.
You know, and life can be traumatic. So there was that. And then at some point we had created in Acadiana a holistic wellness network, and there was a lady there, and she asked me like that, she's, are you a traiteur? And I'm like, oh no, but my grandpa was, and like I wanted to be a traiteur, you know?
Yeah.
And she said, would you like the prayer?
Yeah.
And I'm like, lady, you're not supposed to give me a prayer, because I'm supposed to get that from a man. And then a man is supposed to give it to a woman, and a woman is supposed to give it to a man.
Oh, really?
And like I'm having this little conversation with myself, and I said, yes, I would.
Yeah.
Because, you know. So then she gave me the words of a prayer that she said was for sprained ankles, but could be used for anything. So instead of like a specific traiteur, I'm a GT, like a general. That's kind of funny, huh? And then I found out later, because I really didn't know who she was, that I went to school with one of her kids. And that was so like, it was affirming.
Yeah.
And then I went to UL. First of all, I majored in nursing. Then I went back into fine arts. And then I was just going to do general studies, but then I found out there was anthropology, because like I'm not sure if I knew when I graduated from high school in 1970 that was even a course of study. Not that.
It's true.
I
Yeah.
didn't know. And so when I studied anthropology, I had the opportunity to study about healing, not just in my culture, but I knew it was in my culture.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
that's where all the healing stuff comes from. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Well, this is going to be a silly question, I feel like. but what is
Can I laugh before?
Absolutely,
Or
but
should we wait?
it's on my list of questions, and I've asked everyone,
Okay.
and they've given me different answers, and you can either go with what I think you might say, or you may have one that's totally different and unexpected. But
Well, if you tell me what you
I
think, I
know.
can go with that.
no,
Otherwise,
what is your superpower?
my superpower?
Yeah, what's your superpower?
Could you ask that in another way?
What, and this is why I'm saying maybe I've already heard the answer and just in a different way, but what is something that gives you an edge over other people, or what
Oh,
sets
me?
you apart? Yeah, you.
I think it's being able to laugh at myself.
I can see that now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because I can go into any situation and it's hysterical, even if it's serious.
Sure.
Because, okay, I won't say anything. I had a modified right radical mastectomy.
Okay.
So my body part comes off.
Mm-hmm.
It fell out a few times.
Yeah.
You gotta laugh.
You gotta laugh.
You have to walk around
Yeah.
knowing that at night, part of you is gonna be on the side of the bed and not with you. So and it's so bizarre that there have been times when I could laugh at myself and there are people say, oh, that's not funny.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you may not think it's funny. I think it's hysterical. And if you can't laugh, I'm sorry. And I don't tell them that.
Sure. But it's your survival mode.
I mean, really,
Yeah.
if I can't laugh at me, who can?
Exactly.
And if I don't take myself so seriously, then I can spread joy. The whole thing is, you're healed to. It's not to add time. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if. Okay, let me not bring it, but I have a son, and I asked him one time to interview me for StoryCorps. You remember that? They came in this little
Sure.
Airstream trailer, and they parked in Lafayette, and one generation was going to ask the other generation some questions. Well, my son, I was very brave to ask him, but he said yes. And so I had to answer his questions like right now.
Right.
And so we're really good at giving each other left-handed compliments.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I know those
So
well.
he's like, well, Mom, you're not exactly the greatest housekeeper in the world, but you know what to do when someone is dying.
Wow.
So there's a technician, like we have a cameraman, but
Sure.
he's behind the scenes, he doesn't count, right? So they had this technician. We couldn't do it without him, but he's invisible. So we had this technician in this little trailer. So all of a sudden, the technician sticks his head between us and he goes, can I ask a question?
Really?
Well, we're going to say no.
Right. It's your show.
I don't care. So he says, if you're a healer, why do the people die? I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Because we have this unreasonable expectation that poof,
Right.
you're going to add, I'm going to die one day. It's okay it doesn't die of cancer yet. It's okay that mental illness didn't kill me in the throes of depression. But you're not looking at a lady that's going to live 1,000 years.
Right. Right.
So,
You're right.
so it gives sort of an unreal expectation to healing.
Right.
It can bring quality. You can die healed but not cured. I deal with cancer patients. If they're going to die, I don't think they're not going to die.
Right.
But maybe if I work with them and they can better be okay with,
Sure.
they can prepare better, prepare their family better, just be a little more at peace. So I looked at him like that, I didn't know what to say, because it's a huge thought.
Yeah.
Because you see, I'm a healer, but a doctor can just give you some pills and give you surgery. Well, maybe that's going to save your life.
Right.
But, oh no, they couldn't help me, so you can. So anyway, I just said, well, Gandhi died, and Jesus died, and Buddha died, and
Right.
we're all dying.
Yeah.
So it was like when people want to learn about healing, I usually recommend that they become a volunteer with hospice, because we're all going to die, but we may not all get cured.
Right.
but we may be healed and die healed. So there's, I think, I forgot what your question was, but I think I answered it.
You did. Your superpower is being able to laugh at yourself, is what you were saying.
And accept what is,
Yeah.
humor and acceptance. I think that's
Yeah.
HA, humor and acceptance. Ha.
Why did I get that?
We knew that.
Best line so far. What inspires you?
I don't know. What inspires you? Yeah, give me an example.
Well, this conversation, what you just said about humor, inspires me to take those little struggles in my daily life and laugh.
Oh,
because
goodness.
that's all I can do.
Don't be too proper.
And maybe that's my not superpower. But yeah, what inspires you?
I think little children. I always liked to babysit. Even when I was dating, I would tell my boyfriend or whoever, my fiance, whatever, I'm babysitting tonight. You come get me when I'm finished. because children that haven't been totally abused, they live in the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They can laugh with you, and they're honest. But then as soon as we have to start conforming, and we have to, then they kind of lose. We all do that. We have to. So I think children inspire me, or adults who can still be like children.
Sure.
And creative people inspire me, because you don't even know what you can do yet. And isn't that true? I mean,
That's true.
we don't know. But if you like this, because you shouldn't, or someone told you shouldn't, then you'll never know either.
Yeah.
Like maybe my mama, we were not always nice, but my mama used to tell me I was too stupid to be afraid. Okay? And so fear.
Yeah.
I don't know what we were afraid of, but sometimes we were afraid of sometimes we were afraid of success.
Sure.
But the whole thing of fear too is, children are not afraid. You say jump, they jump.
It's true.
Children, I think, innocence maybe is inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. One last question.
Okay.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Old funny lady. I don't know. Funny old lady, that doesn't sound bad. I don't know.
Tell me.
I'm a lady, I'm old, I'm funny. I don't know. I think that kind of goes with the theme.
I like it, yeah. Very cool. Well, you're done. You said
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.